A three-time Grammy-nominated saxophonist and composer, today's guest has become one of the most in-demand musicians of his generation. Equally at home in a variety of styles, he's recorded and toured with legends like Joey DeFrancesco, Van Morrison, Tain Watts, Kurt Elling, and Veronica Swift, solidifying his reputation as a first-call saxophonist. We're very excited to welcome Troy Roberts on the podcast today. And with 16 releases as a leader, including his latest, Green Lights, featuring John Patitucci, Paul Bollenback, and Jimmy Macbride, he continues to push boundaries both with his quartet and electrifying project Nu-Jive. His dynamic approach to the saxophone and fearless exploration of sound make him one of the most exciting voices in jazz today. So, Troy, thanks for taking the time today. Good to see you.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
We have very unique ways in which we discover music these days. And yours is certainly one of the most unique ways I've learned about an artist. And this must be going back, I would, if I have to guess, maybe 15 years or maybe even 20 years ago. I was just on
Uh,
YouTube, just doing like an exploration of this one Kenny Garrett song. And I heard someone's senior recital at U Miami. And I was like, who in the hell is playing saxophone? And it was you.
wow. Wow. Yeah, that was a long time ago. Jeez.
So were you living in Miami at that time? Like when we were talking 20 years or something, well, some time ago?
Yeah, so I guess we're talking about Eric England's senior recital.
Yes.
Eric is one of my favorite bass players in the world. He plays in my band Nu-Jive. We've been playing together for many years. So yeah, I guess that was like 2007 or six, maybe
Yeah, something like that.
2007, I think.
So
Yeah,
he's in
at
your
the
band.
time, yeah, he's in my band. Yeah, he lives in LA, but we tour and travel a lot together.
That's
Yeah, so that time, I guess, yeah, I was living in Miami. I was doing a master's at the University of Miami.
Mhm.
Um, that was I commenced that in 2005, finished in 2007, and yeah, Miami was my first port of entry as an immigrant to this country. So that was a long time ago. And yeah, I stayed adjunct on faculty for a little while, some years before I moved to New York.
So, you make the decision to go to Miami, which is, interesting because a lot of people who play jazz, they say, "Oh, I'm going to go right to New York when I come here." But you got to, it's a totally different environment in Miami. So when you finished there, was that like, okay, now I know where I'm going. I'm going to the city sort of thing, or
Not quite. As a young musician, it was always my dream as a jazz musician specifically to spend some time in New York. I always wanted to live in New York. But the way I ended up in Miami was I was the first of an exchange program that was set up between my home university, that's the West Australian Academy of Performing Arts, and the University of Miami. So I was the first to do an exchange my last semester of my undergrad from home. So that was 2002. And I went back to Australia after that. I was busy touring and then performing. I was touring a lot at the time with a great multi-instrumentalist, mainly trumpet player from Australia named James Morrison.
Mhm.
And he's an incredible musician who is probably one of the few these days of his caliber that are really encouraging the next generation. Myself and some other very young musicians had the pleasure of touring Europe a lot with him and recording. I recorded some of my own music. And then fast forward to 2005, I wanted to move back to the States. Feel like I'd hit the wall, hit the ceiling in Australia. And I explored my options, and of course, New York being the dream, the reality of it is that I would, uh, come over on a 6 month tourist visa and run out of money and move home. So, yeah, I reached out to my contacts, the contacts I'd made during my exchange semester, and Gary Keller, who was the head of the saxophone studio, offered me a teaching assistantship for the master's program. So that was 2 years and getting some money and some teaching experience as well. Seemed a lot better than moving straight to New York cold. So yeah, I didn't want to study. I went over there just for the sake, just because I needed the student visa.
You know,
And but once I started, I really got into the academia. Yeah.
well, I know so many of these stories, having been a product of, the university jazz world. You see so many people come in as exchange students, and then once they're finished, they go home to their country, or you never really hear from them again. But when I started to see your name playing with certain people, like, well, mainly the two that I was like, yes, I was so happy to hear that when you were playing with Jeff Tain Watts and playing with Joey DeFrancesco. I was like, it was I felt like my instincts were right back then. Um,
Right.
so and that's the thing. I know Joey DeFrancesco, as far as his bands are concerned, he was playing a lot with guitar and drums, and he would play trumpet sometimes. But to have you as the saxophonist with him,
Yeah, he hadn't done that in a while. Like, yeah, he had had plenty of guests and recorded with featured saxophone guests, but he hadn't had someone in his band for a long time on another horn. So I was very, very fortunate.
well, how many years before that do you think he last had a horn in his band? You think, if you had to just guess?
Um, I don't know for sure, but maybe 20 years.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah. So I might be wrong on that, but it feels about right from conversations I'd had with him. You know, so I was very, very fortunate. So many things have happened in my career that I recognize my fortune. I recognize
Well,
they
first
aren't
of all, you seem
normal,
like a
and I've
really
just
nice
been
person.
lucky.
You seem like a very nice person, so that makes me happy.
Ah, fooled you. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Thank you.
Um,
Um,
yeah, talk about Joey. I mean, sorry about that. I mean, but I mean, you were in his band, and how did you meet him and everything? Like, can you talk about that a little bit?
yeah, I was in yeah, his band for 6 years, and there were three iterations of the band. When I first joined, it was a quartet. Um, he called The People, Joey DeFrancesco and The People, and we recorded an album, and that got nominated for a Grammy. And that band was Dan Wilson on guitar and Jason Brown on drums. They
Mhm.
had been a trio for some years before I joined. I was the new addition and the new band, the quartet. Um, and then after that, he broke it down to trio, which was just myself and Mike O'Day played drums. And after that, we recorded another album of Joey's called In the Key of the Universe, which was also nominated for a Grammy. And that band, the touring band was Joey, myself, and Billy Hart on drums. And it was a treat. But the album also featured Farrah Sanders and Sammy Figueroa on percussion. So I had the fortune of playing next to Farrah. I also played bass in that band. When Joey wanted to play saxophone or piano, I would play the bass. So I got this rare opportunity to play bass with Farrah Sanders in that band. It was pretty cool. And of course, record on the album that way too. Yeah, so how did I first meet Joey? I guess Jason Brown, he was in the trio right before I joined, and he was telling Joey about me. And Joey, uh, his manager, his wife, called me up and said, "Yeah, Joey's bought all your albums, and he's a fan of your playing. And how busy are you? Would you be interested in joining the band?" And I was like, absolutely." And she said, "Okay, great. That's the right answer.
Yeah,
Joey
it's
will
like,
be in touch."
I feel like in that situation, it's like if someone just said you're going to be joining the band, like it's like okay, I didn't even need to ask, you know.
Yeah, I guess they were scoping out my commitment, like what other commitments I had going on, because Joey worked a lot. So yeah, she said Joey would be in touch, and yeah, he called maybe a week later, and we had a great chat. We just talked about music. We're into a lot of the same music, so we connected like that. And he also said how much he admired my albums, but I didn't really believe it until we got to the first gig, which Jazz and Ribs Festival in, I can't even remember where that was. Columbus, Ohio, maybe. Yeah, the Jazz and Ribs Festival. So we get there and we've discovered our mutual love for cigars at the time. He had something special for me, so we sat down by the water just talking about music, listening to music on the phone and smoking the cigars after the sound check. And I think I'd asked him about 4 or 5 times, what are we playing? I just memorized all the music from his latest 2 albums. And I thought that'd be fine, but I was like, yeah, what's the set list? What are we playing? He goes, oh, well, yeah, we'll figure it out. But man, have you heard this album? Or you just check out these cigars. Anyway, it got up to the stage, and we're about to play, and I didn't know what we were hitting yet.
And it's a
Uh,
festival. This is not.
it's a festival, yeah, it's a festival, and I think we played one tune off his Trip Mode album, which is the one right before I joined. And then he started playing Stanley, which is one of my tunes from my first album. It was my little tribute to Stanley Tarantine. He had learnt that tune, and we played my tune on his gig, first gig ever. It was pretty, yeah, I
Well,
was just
let's just
blown
this is
away.
amazing. This is like incredible.
Yeah, I
You don't
was
know what you're gonna
really
play,
blown away.
and then he starts playing your song on a festival, the first gig.
Yeah, that was really special. And then I realized, well, yeah,
I'm
he
getting
did
chills
say he
just
checked
hearing
out
it.
all my albums, and he wasn't lying. Yeah, it was really, really a special intro. One of my heroes. Yeah.
It's got to feel also, it's like a bittersweet thing. I mean, rest his soul. You'll be, when you think about being, one of the last people he worked with, it's like, it is sad too at the same time. But, I'm sure you carried the spirit with him when when you hit the bandstand, because he was like one of the best to play the instrument.
Oh, I mean, hands down. Yeah, the
I mean,
greatest
some
jazz
would say he's the
organist.
greatest, some would say that.
Yeah. I mean, he just transcended the instrument. It just did things on the instrument that just wasn't normal to be played on that instrument. We always used to joke about it. He had that Coltrane organ thing. He'd play all this train stuff on the organ, like really, really, really special. That whole spiritual church stuff as well, but then this whole kind of Coltrane spirituality as well is really, really unique.
What do you mean when you say Coltrane spirituality? Like, can you talk a little bit
Like
about?
really, really deep into the music. The vibe of the spiritual vibe of something like something as special as a Love Supreme.
Yeah, I mean, I know what
Um,
you're saying personally as a musician.
yeah,
But
which is it's a different thing to like, the blues church organ gospel spirit. Yeah, the Coltrane vibe on the organ was really, I'd never heard anything like that. Like he really went in. It was really deep. But yeah, he's just one of those guys that he had it all. If he was interested in it, he would have it down.
yeah,
And
I mean, I don't. You
he
could.
happened to be interested in a lot of different music.
Well, that's what I was going to ask too. I mean, someone who's at that level, I mean, and granted, there are so many. I mean, in my opinion, we have thousands and thousands of talented human beings on this planet. But,
Mhm.
someone like him, just so special. I feel like he would be someone who just loves all music in a sense.
Yeah, yeah, that's no lie.
Like he's not just, oh, I just listen to jazz. Like he would just take from everything, probably.
Yeah, really did. Really took from everything. Really
Um,
inspiring.
so let's talk a little bit about, your projects right now and what's on the horizon for you for the next couple months. Uh, we just started the new year off, so what are you looking forward to as far as, in the near future, anything in the summer you're excited about?
Yeah, I guess I feel like I'm in a somewhat of a transitional kind of phase of my career where I've been very fortunate all my whole career to work with so many of my heroes. And yeah, I've been busy as a leader too, recording. Um, I'm fortunate that a lot of the heroes I end up have ended up working with were introduced to my music or my art from my recordings, my albums. Um, yeah, Jeff Watts had heard my band at Zinc and hired me. Joey bought all my albums. You know, people I work with have heard my stuff. But I get really busy with these great artists that, you know, my music, my projects always kind of took a sideline. And yeah, I'm getting older now and really realizing the importance of me pushing my leader stuff.
How old
So
are you, if you don't mind me asking? I mean,
I'm 42
42. Right.
and yeah, I'm not a kid anymore. And I'm deciding to be more selective with my sideman engagements. I would still love to continue working with my heroes and some fellow um, equal contemporary colleagues of mine that inspire me. It's great, but my priority is going to be moving my leader stuff
Um,
forward, making it a priority. And it's been good this year already. It's been good. I did a little tour. I got to uh, Tucson. I just played the Century Room with my quartet, and then we went on to Cleveland, played Bop Stop. Yeah, this Friday I'm at my Nu-Jive band is at Terrazza 7 in Queens, and then we play Smalls the next
you're
week.
playing with Pat Bianchi too, right?
Yeah, we're going to Europe in March. He's definitely one of the sideman artists I can hope to continue working with. He's really like Joey's gone now, and I really feel like Pat is the next one, the holder keeper of the flame.
Yeah,
I
he's a great person too. I mean, I worked with him when I was much
mhm,
younger. I hired him to do something, and he was just like such a nice person, and just he just wants to play, and he's not no attitude in that way like some other people might be, which is beautiful.
mhm. Yeah, he's great. He has that rare thing in what I found playing with Joey, in that I'm just free to play however I want, whatever I want. Go with the moment is right there with me. It's like that rare independence where I feel like I'm playing with a bass player and an organist. That's a really special thing, and Pat's one of the only one other ones other than Joey that I get that real feeling from.
Let me ask you a question. You've worked with so many incredible people, working as a sideman, and I'm I'm sure though all of those experiences are rewarding and fulfilling, but there always is like this deep um need some people might have who write their own music where they're just like, man, I wish I could be doing my own thing right now, even though this is amazing. But it's like it's almost like the grass is always greener on the other side. Like, how do maybe you felt this way or didn't, but how does someone navigate that challenge, you think? Because it is something a lot of sidemen deal with.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the answer to that has kept changing over the years. When I
Real.
was younger, the dream would have been to be living in New York playing with all my heroes. I mean, would have been happy and happy to say I'm there, but it's not enough anymore. Uh, my leader stuff is definitely a priority. But having said that, there are no sideman gigs I'm currently doing, or maybe even in the last 10 years, that I feel like, oh, this is taken away from my leader stuff. I'm not believing in this, or I'm not really all here.
But when you're
Yeah,
on the road with
um,
someone of that level, will like for instance, if you're like have the day off or something, will you be writing your own stuff, working on your own music, or is it just kind of like I
oh,
just
for
want to be
sure.
good? You
No,
know what
for
I mean?
sure. Yeah, I'd for sure be working on my own stuff in between. You know, and it's not like, oh, this is a drag. I got to get my stuff in the middle of this tour. That's not my stuff. It's inspiring. I'd be on the road with my heroes going, oh man, this is so cool. We got into something last night. It reminded me of this melody. I'm going to write this down. And yeah, uh, very fortunate for that. But I'm just trying to be more selective with my how much time I put into being a sideman.
You say you're getting older, but 42 is very young still in the jazz world, I think. I'm 37, and I feel like maybe now, after doing it for, close to
Mm.
17 years or something, I'm starting to find myself.
Yeah, the machine is a slow one to build. So if I don't
That's what I'm
start
saying.
building my leader schedule now, it's going to be harder when I'm 50 or 60. I mean, um,
Do you think
yeah,
about
I
these
mean
things
it
though? Like,
seems young, but I mean, I've been playing since I was 15
mhm,
professionally. I started playing when I
professionally.
was 12. So that's a long time, and yeah, I get older and I think about things like if I were to die tomorrow, what would my mark have been?
Right.
I don't want to be the guy that played saxophone in this band.
But do you think about like, you know, certain dreams you have of certain people you might want to play with as your sideman or in certain, because I mean, like I lay in bed at night and sometimes when I think about playing with certain people at certain places and it's just like I fall right asleep, you know.
Uh, yeah, I'm not sure that would put me to sleep.
Well, you
That
know,
would put me to
20
work
years
because I'd
later.
be trying to figure out how can I make that happen. Yeah. Uh, yeah, there's definitely a list of people I have hopes of making music with one day.
Well, if money is
So,
no object and you can hire anybody you want, like let's say you win the lottery tomorrow and
mm,
you can have your own like you win the lottery and like the Carnegie Hall says, "All right, we need Troy Roberts to bring in his band tonight." Like and you have, you know, who you calling? Like you think?
the music is so important to me that and the personal connection, I would probably still call the people I work with. Some of them are my heroes, and some of them are just contemporaries of mine who, we have a connection, and I love the way they play, and I love the way they play my music. But yeah, if it was to be a hero of mine that I'd not yet played with, maybe that's more specific
Yes, that's what.
question. Oh man, Brian Blade, Jack DeJohnette, Bill Stewart for sure. Larry Goldings, I would love to play with him more. I played with him once. Yeah, there's a whole list of musicians I admire that I would love to really get into it with.
Is part of it though that you said there's a connection that happens between you and your band, like the musicians you work with
Mhm,
now who are your colleagues, but you said is
mhm.
there's also a friendship too, I would presume as well, or is it, is
Yeah,
it
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those things take time to build, and that you can't forge a friendship or a musical connection. They happen, it happens or it doesn't.
that's right.
So yeah, I really value the friendships and relationships I have with my fellow musicians because it's not given. It's magic that it's all working out the way it
Well, have
is.
there ever been a time where you
Mm.
worked with somebody, not saying like maybe we're just in a band, like it could be a number of different ways where you just admire them, but we just didn't lock in the way I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't
that's
have to mention names. I'm just curious if that's happened to you.
yeah, absolutely that's happened. And it's probably more common than you would imagine. I mean, you wouldn't imagine it because you don't see people playing with people they don't connect because they didn't connect, so they don't play together.
I wonder if it's that the way, not just, it's more than music. It's like, how do we see the world the same? Do we think about the day to day the same? Or,
Mm.
are we a certain amount of sensitivity towards life and arts? These things could very much play a role. We don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of bands I know that out there that I admire their music so much, and they really sound like a band. The chemistry, the musical glue is all there, and kind of shocked to find out they don't get along, or one of them doesn't get along, and I'm like, wow, how does the music sound like that when they don't
Really?
connect off the bandstand? Yeah.
Not Metallica. We know they all hate each other.
Ah, no, I'm talking about some jazz groups.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Yeah, that actually on that subject, touring with Billy Hart was amazing. He told me so many kind of shocking Stan Getz stories when he worked with Stan for 6 years. Yeah, I just couldn't believe it because the music is so warm and beautiful that to hear these horrible, horrible Stan Getz stories, I was like, wow. Yeah, not what I thought.
I didn't know that you were, you started, playing professionally when you were so young, do you remember the first jazz gig you did where you really had to improvise on, some sort of aside from playing open on an open chord, like where there were actually like chord changes? Do you remember that, or are we going back too far, do you think?
No, I remember that. Yeah, I wasn't the greatest harmonically back in those days. I always had really good ears. So my ears got me through a lot of stuff I didn't quite understand. So I kind of BS'd my way through a lot of my undergrad because people thought I knew what was up, but it was my ears guiding me through. But yeah, I remember finding it challenging with new music, with harmony I didn't quite understand. And that's something I really had to work on later. When I went to Miami and really got into the guts of the academic side of the brain with Gary Keller, he was my teacher there. Yeah, everything opened up. But I remember that as a youngster. I was always fortunate to work with band leaders who really believed in me and gave me a chance there.
Yeah, it's important for the band leader to give their sidemen the chance and just let them be free. And, I think
Yeah.
people don't think about that. But uh, you know, Troy, this has been such a pleasure to sit and speak with you and get to know you a little bit. And you certainly are, just by talking to you, you seem like such a nice person. You're certainly deserving of all the good that happens to you, and wish you all the best, and for the rest of 2025 and your.
Thank you, Abe. I'm loving what you're doing here with this session.
Thank you.